Hello everyone and welcome back to Chicane, where we, your hosts, Brinley
and McKenna,
put the chic in motorsport.
Our goal is to bring the latest paddock pulp, provide in-depth and unique interviews with the fans and your favorite F1 content creators.
And encourage you about learning about the sport in a fun and innovative way.
We hope you stick around and enjoy this week's episode, and if you haven't already, make sure to go to our introduction episode to get to know more about your hosts.
With that, let's get revving.
Woo!
We got the baby today. Say hi, baby. Okay. So, P1s and DNF of the week. I didn't really give this much thought.
All right, yeah. I was not ready. I have to think about what I did this week. Okay, I'm going camping this weekend, which should be fun. It's our second ever camping trip with little Miss Azariah. The first one went okay, so we're going to see how this one goes.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to that. Father's Day is this weekend, so it's my husband's first Father's Day, so that's going to be really fun.
Aww.
I'm really excited for that. And then I can't think of a DNF. I feel like I say that all the time. But it's true. I just don't have one right now.
That's good. P1. I got asked to be a maid of honor in my friend's wedding, so that's really cool. And I'm helping her out with the wedding and everything. DNF. Oh, I heard back from that internship that I applied for, and it wasn't really open for an internship, so that was a closed door, but I'm pretty happy. I'm content, I guess I should say, either way, but yeah, that's probably the only DNF that I would have this week.
Yeah.
Pretty good week so far. As he's moving around.
Alrighty.
Okay, so we've got some paddock pulp this week. If you follow IndyCar or any other motorsport categories, you are probably familiar with female racing driver Jamie Chadwick. And this week, she won her first IndyCar NXT race. This is the first time a woman has won an IndyCar NXT race. So The Guardian shared that the British driver Jamie Chadwick is ready to build on her debut victory in the Indy NXT series after becoming the first woman to win on a road course in the U.S. Championship that is a feeder competition for IndyCar. So, pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Very proud of her, and I can't wait to see where she goes after this. The other two things we have for Paddock Pulp is the 2026 regulations for Formula One were announced on Formula One's page. We'll get into that in another episode where we'll go into a deep dive of explaining everything. We might have her husband come on and talk about it with the car regulations, rule regulations, all that kind of thing. And then Yuki Tsunoda was announced for a contract extension with Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. So he'll be there for another year for the 2025 season. So another secured seat for next year.
Yeah, builds off what we talked about last week with all the contracts and stuff.
Yes.
So I'm really happy that he has been confirmed. I love Yuki.
Mm-hmm.
So happy to see him next year.
Yeah. Well,
all right. What did you think about the race on Sunday?
I personally think that it was the best race we've had this season. Controversially, I think that is the best race we have had. A lot of the best racing. Yeah.
I would say that we've seen.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe not the best race because Lando won this year, but one of the best racing we've seen. I watched it on Sunday with Mom, and this is her third race live that she's watched with me. And even she was on the edge of her seat, jumping up and down, oh my gosh. Every turn, I felt like there was something new. Yeah. So, made it very, very interesting. What about you?
It was so good. I thoroughly enjoyed that race. It was I was actually questioning there for a second who was going to win.
I know.
I was like, hold on, it might not be Max. Which, we've had races that Max hasn't won, but I was pretty confident he was going to, win that one.
Yeah, we both had a feeling that he was going to win.
And I was like, oh, wait, hold on. Something interesting might happen here. Yeah. But yeah, there was just I feel like every lap there was something happening, something to be talked about.
Well, I put this toward the end of the surprise of the race, which there wasn't a lot of surprises in the race, I feel like. But, like,
unfortunately,
the Haas's at the beginning, what the crap was in their car for, like, the first half of the race?
Well,
we had, those are wet tires, but, like, K-Mag gained 9 positions in 3 laps.
He was cruising up to the front of the grid.
It was crazy. And I was like, what in the multiverse do we have that the Haas's are fighting for a podium right now and the Ferraris are not even in the points? Like, what? And then we had 3 different drivers leading the race at different times in the race. Mm-hmm. So we had George, Lando, and Max. And the fight for first was, like, very, very fun to watch.
Yeah, the fight for first and the fight for third.
Yeah, fight for third, too. We had Alex Albon doing a double overtake.
That overtake was the smoothest thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. That is like a masterclass on a double overtake.
I was like, I didn't even think that was possible, especially the way that he had like executed it, because we've seen double overtakes before. But that one, it was like...
If you haven't seen it, he goes to the left of Daniel and passes him. And then he goes, like, swerves in between. So he goes, like, between a sandwich of Daniel and is it Esteban or Gasly?
I can't remember.
An Alpine. And goes to the right and passes the Alpine into the corner.
Yeah.
And, guys, it was just beautiful.
If you haven't
seen the video, go, like, look it up because it was really good. So, we already mentioned that Max won the race, kind of. Mm-hmm. But we had Max, Lando, and George as our podium. And I'll just say that all my predictions for this race were not very good. I kind of bombed this one. But I had Oscar, Charles, and Max as the podium.
That's funny.
So,
Oscar. Oh, yeah, I forgot you wanted an Oscar win here.
Yeah.
I had said kind of the opposite and similar to what we got. I said Max win, Oscar podium, and then Lewis podium. So we got their teammates on podium instead.
I was thinking, I feel like I almost said this last week, but I was thinking George top 5.
Which would have been...
And I was like, that's not enough of a, like... hot take to throw in there. But
well, I mean, in the past few races it might have been.
Yeah.
But as for DNFs, or do we want to do hot takes first?
We can do DNFs.
Okay. As for DNFs, I had said Carlos, a V carb, and then a top 5 team, like one of the top 4 teams DNFs. So I did get that one right, and I did get Carlos right. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I had just said that Carlos would DNF, and that I had just said Carlos, and I thought that Esteban might DNF, but he actually didn't. He did pretty good. He got some points. Both Alpines got points over the weekend, which is good. They're getting some momentum back. They've been lagging a lot.
They were both in the points, which was nice. Yeah. Our actual DNF, did you say that?
No, I didn't.
Our actual DNFs in the race was 5. We had both Ferraris that DNF'd, both Williams, and then Checo DNF'd as well. Mm-hmm. I can't remember. I think, how did all of them DNF?
Checo got damage on his rear wing.
Yeah, that was like...
And then Logan spun out. And got damage.
Yeah.
Charles's car
was messed up.
Something was wrong.
He got lapped.
And then they put him on slick tires for some reason as it was raining outside. And then I don't know, Alex and Sainz. Didn't they mess each other up?
I was going to say, I think they spun out and hit each other.
Carlos went into the grass because I remember he was like trying to get out and he was like sliding all over the grass. So something happened between them.
Yeah. Because then Alex spun around and hit the wall and he was like facing traffic. Mm-hmm. But he was still in the grass. So, yeah. That was our DNFs for this week.
We had a lot of DNFs, and one of my hot takes last week, I had said that Williams would do good this weekend, Which they did good over the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, their qualifying was good and whatnot, but neither of them finished the race. And I had said that Alex would get points and Logan would get in the top 15.
And yeah. And then I said one of the top teams, DNFs, and both Ferraris did, so sorry, guys. And a Red Bull, that's a top team.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 top team seats.
And that's 2 races in a row that Checo hasn't finished.
Ooh. And at the end, I really thought that Yuki would DNF, but he didn't. I guess he was able to cross the finish line, but it was close. He like, something happened with him. And we haven't even mentioned Lando yet. Okay, hot takes. You said Williams.
Oh, yeah, I had just said that I thought Williams would do good. And I guess Carlos maybe would be a hot-ish take, but not really.
And then your Oscar win was kind of the...
Yeah, that was a little bit out there.
My hot take for the weekend was that a contract would be announced, and that did happen with Yuki, so I did pretty-ish on the
That was good.
predictions this week. Baby, move in.
Yeah, speaking of contracts and Carlos, there's still no contract, but there is a lot of speculation going around, lots of rumors about Williams offering him a multi-year contract and his official seat announcement being announced at the Spanish Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're all just waiting, kind of sitting on our hands. He had said something that was like, I see all this stuff in the media and it just kind of makes me laugh, like all these rumors and stuff. And I sent it to Brinley and I was like,
We're not laughing.
no one else is laughing, Carlos. We need to know.
We're actually very stressed right now.
Yeah.
We want you to see, and we haven't seen anything about it. So, yeah. Another thing I didn't mention earlier when we were talking about, like, the actual race, Daniel Ricciardo got a 5-second penalty during the race.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had 2 safety cars. So, this race was just so eventful. Like, I felt like it wasn't as wet as Spa usually is, but it was pretty rainy.
Yeah.
And there was only one, like, they literally could only follow the race line, and if they were off just by a little bit on the track, then they were, like, spinning out. So
It's always really cool to me when we have wet races and it's drying, and there's just, like, one dry line on the track.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is...
and how
so
perfectly
cool.
all of them follow
Yeah.
it. It's crazy. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and then Toto came on and talked to George.
Was on the radio.
Darth Toto.
Darth Toto returned. Did we have any groundhog sightings?
There was a groundhog. They mentioned it one time. There was
I know
over
there
the
was
weekend.
on Friday and Saturday.
I was gonna say over the weekend they had Mr. and Mrs. Groundhog, and then during the race they said, "Watch out, there's a groundhog on track," but I didn't see any actual like visual coverage for it.
Okay. Yeah, it was very funny. Toto came on the radio and he was like, "Focus, George."
Focus.
I think everyone was kind of like,
He came on and my mom was like, "Who is that?" I was like, "Toto Wolff." She was like, "Oh, okay." So we might have a Toto fan in our house now. But as for like the actual stats of the race and everything, the best pit stop was Ferrari at 2.21 seconds. She's sucking on my neck. Sorry, guys. Ferrari at 2.21 seconds. So that was ironically the fastest pit stop we had for a team that didn't even finish.
it's so disappointing to come off like a Monaco high.
Oh, yeah.
And then both cars to not finish.
Were you seeing like all the memes that were like the Monaco miracle turned into Montreal misery? And I was like, oh my gosh. Don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I have her.
The way I chugged my phone. She's For everybody listening, I'm holding her in my lap, and she is, like, moving around, and I had to get my phone to look at the notes, and she, like, was leaning forward.
She, like,
and I
tried to launch herself.
Yeah, tried to launch herself, so I chucked my phone so I could grab her. So that was that loud noise. I'm sorry, guys.
Just a couple more minutes.
Okay. And then do you want to cover our fastest lap?
I would love to. Our fastest lap was set by Lewis Hamilton, Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Yes.
With 1 minute 14 seconds. Hold on. Why am I not saying this right? My brain is computing. 1 minute 14.856 seconds.
There we go. That was...
Sorry, that took like 14 tries.
It took 1.14 to get to it. No, okay. Yeah, that was the one thing that was pretty interesting about this weekend too, is that a lot of people were setting the fastest lap. Like, I feel like when we've watched the races, it's usually between like 1 or 2 people that are setting the fastest lap, and it's usually the top 3 teams. But like Lando and Oscar were back and forth for like 20 minutes setting the fastest lap. Yeah. Then K-Mag set a fastest lap at one point. Then George did. Then Max did. Then Lewis obviously claimed the last one. But
yeah, I feel like one thing to kind of take away from this weekend is that Mercedes had big improvements in their car. They were actually up fighting. They were fighting each other. But they were fast this weekend. So that'll be exciting to see if they kind of start to get in the fight a little bit, or at least like challenge some of the other cars. And then also after this weekend, Ferrari is supposed to be bringing major upgrades. Yeah. And Lando's he's only 7 points behind Charles in the championship fight for P2. So I feel like if we keep this up and we have more non-max winners this season, then we might actually have like a driver championship fight. It could happen.
Maybe not the Red Bull.
I'm not one to like discount it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like we have some more non-race max wins.
I hope so.
It's so interesting.
Has been so good.
It's been so good.
Like, this is kind of what I mean when people are like, oh, you're like, why would you be upset that Max is like winning all the races? Like, you're not a real fan of the sport or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care if Max wins all the races. I want to see like wheel-to-wheel racing.
Yes.
And like that, we've seen that, and it's been so exciting. Like
George and Oscar yesterday, like on Sunday, their whole fight for P3 was stressful. And I was telling her this on Monday, that whenever they were in the cool-down room with Lando, George, and Max and Lando sat down immediately, were watching the race highlights. And Lando obviously doesn't know the behind him, like what's happening in the race, and he sees they touched, so the collision between Oscar and George, and then Oscar like moving out of the way, and George walked into the room right at that, and Lando, like, you could see him like side eye and then go like this, cover his mouth, and I was like, oh, he is mad. Like, he was mad, but he was holding, like, he didn't say anything to George. I don't remember him saying anything, but I was like, you could just see the energy like rolling off of him, and I was like, oh no.
It was also hilarious if you watch the press conference after. George got called to the steward's office, and they're like, hey George, like, you're being dismissed, and both Max and Lando gave like major side eye, and we're like, oh yeah, okay. Max was like side eye, and then Lando went, no.
It was pretty funny. But speaking of Lando, he was again our driver of the day. So I think this is his 5th driver of the day this season. So that was pretty interesting. We've had, I don't know who was also the fight for driver of the day, but he was saying that he wants to see if the LN4 fans can get him driver for the day for the rest of the season.
Also, since I should have mentioned this when there was, when we were talking about Alex's double overtake, but Crypto.com does an overtake of the month. And Charles got it this month, last month, be sure to vote for Alex.
Yes.
This
If
month.
you don't, you're missing out because that was one of the best overtakes I've seen in my life. So he's definitely getting that from me. Box. There we go.
Alrighty. So there's a little unofficial official. Whoa, what's happening?
What? I was just saying, look at
I was just looking at. Okay. I was looking at myself, guys. There's a little unofficial official title that you can get in the motorsport world, and that is the Triple Crown. And so this is awarded to a driver who wins arguably the three most prestigious races in all of motorsport. And that is the Indianapolis 500, the 24-hour Le Mans, and the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So the only winner of this Triple Crown right now is British driver Graham Hill. He won the Monaco Grand Prix 5 times, and in 1966 he won the Indianapolis 500, and in 1972 together with Henry Pescalaro he won the 24 hours of Le Mans. So he's the only current driver to hold the title of the Triple Crown award.
he set the standard.
Mm-hmm.
Of the active drivers we have right now, Fernando Alonso is currently most likely to win the Triple Crown. He's won the Monaco race and the 24-hour Le Mans.
Yeah.
So we're speculating that potentially after his Formula 1 career, he might hop over to IndyCar and win the Indianapolis 500 to just kind of check all the boxes.
McLaren, as a team, managed to claim the Triple Crown of motorsport as well. The British racing team won this 1974 Indianapolis 500 with driver Johnny Rutherford, and in 1984 Alan Prost gave McLaren its first victory in Monaco. In 1995 McLaren won the 24 hours of Le Mans with JJ Leto, Mazanori Sakaya, and Yannick Dalmas. So as a team they've won that, and they honored that in the Monaco Grand Prix of last year. So they decked out their car in the Triple Crown livery.
Yeah, I remember that. All right. So we're going to go ahead and hop into talking about Le Mans a little bit more because it's this weekend. So it's the 15th through the 16th. It will start 9 a.m. on Saturday and 9 a.m. on Sunday. So if you're interested in watching it, for American fans, it will be streaming on Max or HBO Max.
Yeah.
And they do a free week trial before you have to pay. So if you don't have to pay for another streaming service, just set a reminder on your phone to cancel it after the race is over. I'm going to spare an entire history lesson because we could talk for a long time about all of this and all the regulations that have changed. I'm just going to give you a brief overview. If you've seen the movie Ford versus Ferrari, that is the race that they do in that movie. Gran Turismo.
Yep.
So if you watch either of those movies, you'll probably have a pretty good idea. Okay. I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. So the first ever race was held on May 26th to 27th in 1923 and has run every year since in mid-June. But there were exceptions for COVID and the Great Depression and World War II. So, like, major historical events. It, like,
It's like a pause.
didn't happen or was, like, held in September or something like that.
Wow.
So it's gone through some things. It's experienced a lot of life.
Yeah.
So the Le Mans takes place on the 8.5-mile track of Circuit de la Sorde in by the town of Le Mans in France. So the Le Mans race has 3 drivers to a team, and they swap throughout the race. The team's goal isn't to cross the finish line first, but to clock the furthest distance. So it's not like a race to the finish like a Formula 1 race or pretty much every other standard race, but to just have the most miles in your car. So this is pretty much the ultimate test of man and machine. The drivers will often race for over 2 hours. They have a max time limit of 4 hours they can be in the car.
Oh, wow.
Until they're required to take a break. And it's an enclosed vehicle with very poor ventilation in midsummer. So very hot. Super rough. And then there's also a lot of strategy that comes into play with tires, management of the brakes, and fuel levels. So whenever they swap, they'll do a pit stop, and obviously if you have to change your brakes, like that takes a lot longer and stuff, and you don't necessarily want to be doing that all the time. And so there will be 62 teams that start the race this year.
Wow.
And I think last year only 5 cars didn't finish, which to drive for 24 hours straight is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But that's kind of all I'll say about that. And this will be my first year actually watching it. And so there's still a lot for me to kind of learn more about it and stuff. But I'm super, super excited to watch it and see what happens.
Wow. I'm wondering, and I'm asking it right now, but like I'm wondering what the requirements to do Le Mans are, because it's not like Formula One, it's not like IndyCar, like it's a once a year thing.
You have to like qualify, I'm pretty sure, and like your team has to be invited to compete, or you have to like meet a certain standard or something.
Okay, wait, I found something. So it says so for the 24 hours of Le Mans, drivers must meet the following requirements. FIA listing. Drivers must be listed by the FIA. Drivers are categorized into 4 professional groups, platinum and gold, and 2 amateur groups, silver and bronze. Scrutiny. Before the race, drivers, teams, and cars undergo a thorough inspection called Le Passage. And then the technical regulations. The car must meet technical regulations. For example, Le Mans hypercars must have a maximum length of 5,000 millimeters, a minimum engine weight of 165 kilograms, and a maximum power output of 50 kilowatts. So those are the requirements, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So not just like anybody can enter.
No, yeah, I'll be excited to kind of see what happens and learn all the ins and outs.
Are you gonna watch the whole 24 hours?
No, are you kidding me? I'll have it on just like playing throughout the day and stuff, and then I'll probably go back and like watch the highlights and everything. So you said I'll have to watch some of like free practice and qualifying to like see what I'm rooting for.
I was gonna say, because there's like, you said there's 62 teams or 62 cars?
Teams.
Okay.
So that's
still 62 cars, right? Or is there
that's cars.
Okay.
And then I think it was like 180 something drivers, because there's actually one person who drove the entire 24 hours by themselves one time. What am I blanking on his name? It was like Eric something. I literally had it because I was like, oh, that would be cool to mention. But then the regulations changed and they're required to. There's a minimum amount of time they have to be in the car, and then a maximum amount of time they're allowed, and like minimum rest they have to take and whatnot.
Edward Ramsden Hall.
Edward. He did it all by himself.
Wow. I can't even imagine. Like you were saying, like in the middle of the summer with like not a lot of ventilation going through the car.
He was just like, I think it would save a lot of time not having to get out of the car, because the car like doesn't really have doors. You have to climb in and out through the window.
Because of the way the car's built and everything.
Yeah.
Which the cars are really interesting.
They're really cool. They're really sick. And he was like, I think it would save time if you could just like change your tires and fuel up and then leave again. And he tried it.
Wow. And he's fine? He was fine?
He did it. Okay. I'm sure he didn't feel great after.
But yeah. We don't have a race this weekend. The drivers are off for the week and for Father's Day in America, at least. And then
we will resume in
Spain.
Spain?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Spanish Grand Prix is next.
Yeah. And so I guess we will find out if Carlos, the rumors are true about his contract.
I mean, if I were him, like, that sounds like the best place to announce it. Announce at your home Grand Prix.
Why not? Right?
Yeah. And isn't this track in Madrid instead of Barcelona?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
I think it's at Madrid. I think it's in Madrid, which was where he was born. So this is like literally a home race.
Okay.
I guess that's all for us.
All we have to say.
Bye, guys.
Checkered flag.
Checkered flag, which we still don't have.
Well, no one ended up going and commenting.
Yeah, nobody commented, so we didn't go and buy them.
So really, it's not our fault.
All right, bye, guys.